Right now, it's my pleasure to share a little bit with you about Econ Lowdown. It is an online learning platform, and it is based out of St. Louis, but is for the entire Federal Reserve System. As I begin to tell you a little bit about it, I do want to let you know that the materials back here are certainly not just from the St. Louis Fed. There are materials here from the Board of Governors, from 11 of the 12 Federal Reserve banks. There's also information here from the SIFMA Foundation, from FINRA, from Fannie Mae. If you're a fan of Planet Money, we have several of the NPR Planet Money broadcasts that are specially curated for student use, that they're shortened. And they also have then questions that the students have to answer after they listen to the podcast. There's information here from EconoFact, from the Peterson Institute, videos from BLS, as well as some data science videos too from the California State University Northridge about data literacy. So it is, as I said, it is for the entire system, not just the St. Louis Fed. And now let's try our hand at Slido again. And I'm not quite sure why we have fixed income in here. This is not what I'm supposed to be asking you. So we'll just move on from that. And instead, how about we have this poll? Please get out your phone again and let us know what learning management system your school district uses. This is great. I find this very interesting. One of the things that is heartening to me is seeing that Canvas is on here, because we do have a direct link to Canvas. So it will be very easy for you to use it. And for those of you who are Google schools, we also have Google single sign-in that you can use. We are working on trying to use Schoology, or connect to Schoology. That hasn't happened yet, but we're in the process of trying to do that. I'm certainly not an expert in these different learning management systems, but it seems that many of them are out there, and to find out which ones people are using. And I see that some people have Schoology and they're not big fans. So thank you very much for sharing this information. And speaking of sharing, today, I really am going to be leaning on Robin in the chat to make sure that I am sharing the information that is most pertinent, that you want to know about things that are in Econ Lowdown. And feel free, Leslie or Kevin or anybody else, because they have lots of information in Econ Lowdown. If there's something that you think of that I haven't mentioned, feel free to pop in. Jeanette, you too, of course. All right. Now, if you are not as familiar with Econ Lowdown, or if you've not been there before, you can just Google Econ Lowdown and easily find it. And once you get there, I hope you will be willing to bookmark it. The reason I took a picture of a snap of what you find in Google is because it sort of highlights for you, when you look at it, how easy it is to find, and that there are resources there that will go from K-12. And you can see that the student login is available. And I will soon show you that you can check out the resource gallery without even being logged in. And yes, the account is free. So in doing so, if you had Googled Econ Lowdown and then gone directly to the site, it would pop up and look like this. And when you get there, you can see that if you go ahead and have never been here before, you will be able to actually go over here and window shop, if you will. I would encourage you, though, that before you window shop, to consider logging in for a free account. And there are a couple of real advantages in doing this. One, it will allow you to then access and assign particular items to your students, as well as see answer keys, and you'll be able to see pre and post tests, because when you do the window shopping, these are things you cannot see. So if you have been here before, but maybe it's been a while, it's okay. You can go and ask for your password to be reset. So if you go ahead and pop in and as you're window shopping, all right, then you're going to find that as a window shopper, you will be able to view what there is available as podcasts, and we call those audio Q&As. You can see the modules that have pre and post tests available. You can also see different reading Q&As that are available. The earlier ones, teachers do have to go in and grade them, but the more recent ones since 2019 are all auto-graded. And then, of course, there's videos that have questions that the students must answer afterwards, and then you can see what they do on. You can see the answers and if they got them correct or not. But what I want to do now is go ahead and go directly to Econ Lowdown. As you can see, I was logged in earlier today, but I have timed out. All right. So I'll need to go ahead and put back in my email and then type in my password. Now that I'm logged in, I can go to my classrooms or go straight to that resource gallery. And that's where I'm going to take you. Because today I want to focus on helping you find resources that you can use in your classrooms. But before I move forward anymore, I do want to stop for a moment because I don't see the chat at this particular instant, and double check and see if anyone has a question so far about anything in Econ Lowdown. If not, I will keep moving right along. To begin with, I want to point out a few things. One is that we do have a search bar. So if you know a topic that you're looking for, you can just type it in the search. But I would encourage you to perhaps do a little bit of filtering and definitely check out the various filters and what they can do for you. As you can see right now, there are 584 resources available here for you to use in Econ Lowdown. However, it's kind of like going into a big box store. If you have time, you can wander up and down every aisle, but sometimes you don't have time. And so if you would like to cut to the chase, you can quickly start looking at the filters. Now that I am logged in, I want you to look at this list of resources, and you're going to see that there are some resources listed here that were not listed when I showed you the sneak peek window shopping view. Can anyone look at, and do you see a difference between what you saw in the window shopping view and what you see here? And if you see something that's different that you have that wasn't there before, can you type that in the chat?
We have an answer from Diane. She's saying syllabus.
Very good, Diane. You know, sometimes in the afternoon, it's hard to like stay focused, and thank you for being focused, because yes, that is something that wasn't on there before. Does anyone see anything else that's a resource that's available that wasn't in the window shopping view?
Some very positive remarks, how they're excited about this, the syllabus and the FREEI interactive. But
that's it. FREEI interactive wasn't in the other one either. All right. So since this audience is predominantly focused on economics, I will definitely show you that FREEI interactives, because yesterday in the Slido poll was able to determine that many of you are high school teachers or college teachers. And so I do think the FRED Interactives will be something that you will want to see. So we're going to come back to that. Another thing that helps you filter is to go by subject. And so once again, you can look at what do you teach and quickly pick the subject that you're interested in. There's also a topics list that you can go down. And if you're looking for something specifically, when you look at the topics were determined by topics that are based in either the national standards for economics or the national standards for personal finance. So if you wonder why some of these things are in here the way they are, that is why. So for example, inflation, which we talked a lot about, inflation is something that is listed as one of the possible things. Another thing that we have talked about today and yesterday too is that we definitely had, let's see, did I skip something else up here? Fiscal and monetary policy. Now, we didn't really focus on fiscal, but we did talk about monetary policy. So I'll go ahead and mark that. And often when we think about the whole employment portion, all right, we'll check that one out too. So those are three big topics that I'm going to go ahead and apply here for us. Because if we select just those three topics that were kind of the purview of what we talked about in the last 2 days, we're going to find that the topics will be listed in alphabetical order, all right? But there are a few keys that I want to share with you when you're looking, besides finding it in alphabetical order. If we look right here, we can see that, okay, this is going to be a reading Q&A because it's like a little book. And so this is a key for you. Another right down here is it'll tell you which standards this applies to for grade level. And it takes approximately 30 minutes to complete this. So this happens to be the reading Q&A for something that Jeanette mentioned earlier in her part of her presentation. And since it's alphabetical, this one pops up first. But you're able to preview anything, and so you can see before you assign it to your students exactly what's in it. And I also want to point out for any of the page 1 economics that are the focus on finance or page 1 economics for economics, they were originally done in print version, and we used to post them with the teacher's edition and the student edition. And you might have surmised that there are some fairly wily students out there that would rather go to the teacher's edition than do the work. And so by teacher request, we now have hidden the teacher's edition link behind the Econ Lowdown portal. And so teachers can access that. This one is new enough that it can be all auto-graded. So if you wanted to see what is in this particular page 1, you can just scroll down through it and you can find it. Incidentally, you can see that, yes, it does have the FRED graph. And one of the nice things about FRED graphs is that once, this is a whole nother story for another day, but if you create a free FRED account and create graphs that you want to use in that, they will automatically update. So even though once something is published, generally speaking, it's static for that day and it's frozen in time. However, FRED graphs are not. When you create your graphs and files in FRED and save them, they will automatically update. So you can go from one semester and then come back the following year and all your graphs will be automatically updated. So this is the FRED graph, which will automatically update, and it's updating here. So it will take you through May of 2022 as you look at it. I also wanted to point out that there will be a summary of whatever is involved in here. You can see what standards it's aligned to and additional resources to teach the particular topic. Those are all things that you can find in the preview page. You can also look exactly and see what it is your students would be asked after they completed it. But all page 1s have graph practice. They will have questions to ask for understanding and comprehension of the concepts. And for ones like this one, you can see that they will end up, your student can take it and it will be auto graded for you. And you can see when they completed it and what their scores were. So these are just some of the questions that were included in this particular page one. All right. As I move on and start showing other things, I do want to pause for just a moment and see if there's any particular requests for any type of item. If not, I have lots I'm willing and able to show. Robin, how about you interrupt me if you see anything in the chat, and I'm going to keep going. One of the things I did mention is that we have things from the U.S. Currency Academy, and this happens to be one of them. Many times resources that were originally created for elementary level also work well at the high school level. Robin, is there a question in the chat?
Yes, we're being asked, where do you see the students' scores?
Excellent. All right. Let's see. You see that in your classroom. So how about I go back to my classrooms and I'll show you exactly how that works. All right. I was giving you a quick tour of what you would find. I'm going to look at archived, and I will go back and find, let's see, most recent I have will be my student board of directors. Sorry, I have several classes. And often, what is you create classes? And someone mentioned this yesterday, and don't let me forget, Chris, so that I can show people how you, if you created a class and you have an old syllabus, how you can then show that again for another class. But let me get my, oh, the Institute in San Diego. That's from years gone by. Okay. And yes, everything stays in alphabetical order. So if I look for my student board of directors and I go for this most recent class, and then I have where you're going to see it's going to come up the syllabus that I assigned to them, and they did the old monetary policy course, all right, way back in July of last year. So I can go to that course for this particular class, and then I can go in and look at the student progress. And at that time, I can see the pre-test scores the students had for this particular course. And I can see that they have finished the course, and it tells you how many points were possible, and it tells you what the post-test scores. And so for me, it's very important to see, was the post-test score higher than the pre-test score? That's what I'm looking for. You know, do they show improvement or not? Incidentally, in looking at this, you can see that there's this little reset post-test, and at the teacher's discretion, you can reset it to allow a student to retake it one time. If a student comes to you pleading that, you know, they were distracted and their cat was on the keyboard and they weren't paying attention when they answered, or whatever it might be, you can allow them to, you can reset it for them one time to retake it. Generally speaking, though, it's not set for retaking tests. You can also see when they completed it, and then you can have the date due. So without spending a whole lot of time on how to set up your classroom, I will go back and show you that another time. I'd be happy to do that. But right now, I'm going to give you a taste of what resources are available. I will say that we have tutorials out there, really good little short videos on how to set up everything. And if time allows, after I kind of try to show you the things that are out there, I'm happy to go back and do that portion too. But I don't want to run into and take up any of Kevin's time either. So hopefully that answers that question. And I'm going to go back again and resort my topics and pull those up for us. Speaking of which, if someone has a topic that you really want to see what's available for it, let me know. As you might imagine, if we go to the Federal Reserve System, we do have oodles about that. Robin, is there another question?
There is another question, and they wondered if they could take multiple retakes for students that need extra attempts. And I believe you answered that, but I just want to make sure you covered it.
When it comes to the when it comes to the post test, that is, it's right now it's limited to one reset. However, students can break down what they're taking and they can go back. And what I haven't shown you is a sample of the modules. When they work through the modules, they get practice that's not graded all along the way. And so they get instant feedback when they do those little practice sessions. And so if they get any of those incorrect, they have the opportunity to go back and fix it immediately before they move forward. Robin, are there any other questions?
Yes, can additional post-tests, retests be added? I'm not sure how.
You can only redo the post-test once. The pre-test is the first and only time occurrence. One thing that I would say that it's a good idea to encourage students not to just race through things. It's not something that the swiftest one completing it wins the race. It's really looking at, reading for remembering, not reading for speed. And so, and doing the activities. As you can see, we do have some of these resources are available in Spanish. I didn't go up here. We do have one video that's in Chinese, but everything else, we have some that are mainly English, but we do have several resources in Spanish, and we're trying to add more as we go. So these are just resources we have that deal with monetary and fiscal policy. And there's a wide variety of things. And so you can really narrow it down more. One of the things that Leslie mentioned yesterday was the Econ Lowdown video that deals with, I think it was probably, I don't think she was doing the inflation ones. It was probably the monetary policy ones and employment. So in looking at it, there's just a whole lot of really good videos. Some of these videos are from the Atlanta Fed. We have a very nice series of videos of Fed and You from the Philadelphia Fed. As I said, virtually every Federal Reserve bank in the system has materials behind this portal. And the one that doesn't is in the process of getting materials to us that are supposed to go behind it too. So it is definitely a unified effort. And we have materials from all across the system, and they're accessible to you free of charge. And one of the things that I did point out earlier was that syllabus thing. And so I want to take you to the syllabus right now so you can see what we're talking about. When we think about a syllabus, our colleagues in Chicago asked us to create a syllabus that would fit and work for their money museum. And so those are available here. Is there another question, Robin? I saw your hand, that's all.
Yeah. Do you anticipate disaggregating the AP economics filter into AP macro and AP micro?
Not at this time, but speaking of resources and resource type, I'll show you how that applies for the syllabus, because one of the things that we are working on is to create by unit for AP teachers. And so the syllabus is a great place to go if you are an AP economics teacher, because what we have for you, for example, for macro, for unit 1, we've taken the all, you can preview and look at all of the subsets, all right? And so we took and aligned that to the reorg from 2019. And yes, of course, we have materials to teach everything new in the CED for the changes that just came about for AP macro. I do want to point out in a syllabus that all these pre-made syllabi have a teacher view option and a student view option. And when I say the teacher view option, that is something that will have some print material in there that is not an Econ Lowdown, that is available from our print resources on our external and internal engagement, our regular Big Fed webpage. And I can show you how to get there. But what it does is it goes through each one of the points for the AP Economics syllabus, like the 1.1 for scarcity, the 1.2 for opportunity cost and production possibility curves. And so it gives you an option of assigning a reading Q&A, assigning a module. For the 1.2, the production possibilities frontier. Here, it shows, oh, well, this isn't something that would be assigned at Econ Lowdown. This is a print lesson that you could do, an active lesson you could do with your students in class. And so that's something you would see on the teacher side. But if you flipped it to the student wouldn't see any of those print resources. So if you were to select one of these syllabi, you could quickly just decide, I want to assign that to a class. I'm just using this as an example. So in doing that, I say, okay, great. I want to assign it to a class. So now I say I'm going to assign it to a class, but I have to say what class I'm going to assign it to. So what will happen now is if I'm going to assign it, then I'll have to go and assign it to a class because that's what that thing does. So from here, if I'm assigning it to a class, I have to add it to a classroom. Here's the time where I could add it to a classroom I had already made, or for right now, in our purposes, I'm just going to make a new classroom that's going to be our Federal Reserve Institute class. And so I'm going to create a classroom for you. And it's very, very easy. So I would suggest when you create classrooms that you be as specific as possible. And since Chris asked me to show you other syllabi, I'll show you why. So this is going to be our Federal Reserve Economic Education Institute 2022, all right? And you give it a beginning date of when your students could possibly use this class. I'll just use today because we're using it as an example. And then how long would they have to do this unit? Well, we'll say they will have until September 16th. You can edit these dates. You can also edit and get rid of anything that's in the syllabus. You can add and subtract, as you might imagine. And you can alter and change the dates on different things that are listed in there. But what I did is I just created this for you so you can see how easy it is to do it. Now, we're going to say that I'm finished adding for this. And so now we can go. It's kind of like if you go to a store and you put lots of things in your cart. You can't leave the store with those things in your cart until you check out, all right? And the checkout portion for Econ Lowdown is to publish, all right? So if you publish it, that means that all of a sudden now it would be live and your students could see it. But you have to figure out how you're going to get those students in the class, because right now you've created the class. We've got some great materials for them to learn, but then you have to figure out how you're going to assign them to your students. Well, there's several ways you can do that. One, for everyone who listed that you're a Google school, you could just log in with Google, all right? And if you do that, you're going to get this Google code, right? And it's very simple. Your students just copy paste that code and they are automatically populated in your class. Or if you don't have any learning management system, or you don't like the learning management system you have, you can easily use Econ Lowdown. And that's why I call it a learning management system light, because if you're going to log in with Econ Lowdown, that would mean you would need to go in and you can upload your class, all right? So you can either type in your students, and I'm a slow typist, so if you have 30 students, I wouldn't want to do that. Instead, I would want to go ahead and upload the list, all right? So I would upload the names of all my students, so I wouldn't type them in. So instead of just adding each student one at a time. So you can add, I think it's, there's a limit to it, but I guess it's at least 40 students to the class, right? Now, in doing that, I could type them in, as I said, but I don't want to do that. Instead, I could import the list. And I think this is the easiest thing to do. If you'd like to import the list, what you do is you just take a CSV file and you import that. One of the easiest things is for them to be able to access it through email. So make sure that you have that CSV file has their last name, first name, and excuse me, we don't use the whole last name. We only take the initial. So if you have the last name on there, it will only put their last initial on there. It's their first name and last initial. We don't keep any student data. We don't keep any information about your students. And there is the privacy notice, because you can share that with your school district to let them know we don't want and we don't keep any data. The only thing we care about is their pre-test and their post-test scores. And other than that, we don't keep track of it. So what you can do is upload that file. If you don't make CSV files very frequently, we also have notes here of how to create them. So quite frankly, when I was teaching, I would refer to that note just to make sure I did it correctly. And it was very quick and easy to upload the file. I do have what I'll show you real quickly, what it looks like for your students that have used that Google single sign-in. We created summer camps for students to be able to, on their own, if they wanted to, attend, do some work over the summer. This is something we started during the pandemic in 2020, and we have continued because there's been demand by parents. They want their students not to just have brain atrophy, and they'd like them to do a little something over summer vacation. And so they can join this particular class. And the way they get to join it is they join it, the students join through the Google single sign-in. And so we do have several students from across the U.S. and some outside the U.S. who are currently doing this. I guess for middle schoolers, I guess I have 130 who are enrolled in the Little Summer program. And they have joined using this code. And I opened this up so you could see that this is the code that they used. It's very simple. They just go in, type in the code, and they are automatically populated in the class. Okay. Kind of been giving you a lot of information. Does anyone have a question before I go back to the resource gallery?
We have a question asking if this is a Canvas platform. It's actually its own platform.
No, but it does connect to Canvas. So I'm really glad that you asked that. What I'm going to do is go back to the initial home page here. When I go to the home, one of the things that's nice is when you first log in, instead of saying, hi, Eva, it'll have your name. It'll say, hi, Robin, you know, and then, yeah, these are a little corny, I admit. But,
no, we have another question too. Can they use multiple codes for each individual class if they're teaching multiple sessions? Can they give each class a unique code?
That is an awesome question. And whoever asked it, I say thank you. You want to create, let's just say you teach three classes of economics and one class of personal finance. All right. So you want to denote them by like class period. So you want to have first period econ, second period econ, third period econ, fourth period personal finance. And you definitely want to say, if it's a semester course, like first semester 2022, and that's how you want to name the class. And then you would do a separate code for each one of those classes. Because otherwise, if you used just one big code, you'd find you'd have 90 students all in one huge class, and it would be really hard to keep it straight. So that's a great question. Whoever asked it, I say thank you. Now, the reason I came back to this is because this shows you the Google single sign-in, and it has directions on how to do it. All right. We have tutorials on how you, quick little videos on how to do all the setup. But most importantly, for all those of you who use Canvas, We have a video tutorial. We have the little form you fill out, and obviously we think it's beneficial. What it looks like, you Canvas experts, is that in your Canvas gradebook, there's a little place down there that you can have like add-ons, and Econ Lowdown is officially accepted as an add-on, but your IT people at your district must like flip a switch to say, okay, we accept Econ Lowdown as an add-on. It doesn't take long. The time is getting a hold of your tech people and letting them know that it's okay to add on Econ Lowdown. So I would suggest that if you are a Canvas user and you'd like to use this, contact your IT people in your district Monday and then start that process, because the sooner they integrate it for you into your gradebook, then you can start looking at it and playing with it. And the beauty for you then is that you won't have to worry about adding in your students in any classes, because your students will already be there. And then all of a sudden the Econ Lowdown will be integrated in for you. So as I said, there are directions, and where it clicks on here and it says, use this form. This is the little form that you can share with your district. It says, okay, this is the particulars of how, what you need to do to get your root administrator permission to deploy it, and the information that you can fill out to do that. And as soon as you submit it, then you're on your way. So this is the first thing I would do, do this today so that you can go ahead and get it connected so you can use it. So thank you for asking that. Now, do we have any, what other questions do we have? If not, I think I promised somebody I'd go back and show you how you can take a syllabus that you've already created and then just use it again. And to me, this is a really beneficial resource to do. So what happens is when you create a syllabus for a class, you have the option of putting it in your resources. So if I go back, I'm going to go back to my classroom and the one I just created, all right? So you can see from that. And here, notice I just created this classroom. This was the syllabus that I downloaded. I published, so it would actually be here. And in this, I could go in, and if I decided that there was something I didn't want to use, I could go ahead and I could delete it, all right? If I wanted to change the order of when students were doing something, I can rearrange it. If I want to add more things or edit things, you can. You can edit. If you want to do custom content, like this was custom content that I put in here, you can add a custom content. But right next to custom content is this little button box that says show in my resources. And by putting it show in my resources means that this same syllabus, when I'm done with it, then it'll be there so that next year when I'm creating the syllabus for the Federal Reserve Institute for 2023, I can go back in and say, well, let's see, what did we do in 2022? Right? And you can go back and look at the exact one. Another thing that's really cool that you can do as a teacher is that you can always add custom content that you can write notes. And this will be, and you can decide it's going to be just for you, teacher only. Okay, so I just made a note to myself that each of you who attended today, we'd like to invite you back to our Federal Reserve Institute next year, 2023. So I'm going to save that, all right? And the reason you could make notes and where that's going to be, that saved note that only I can see in teacher view, all right, is right here. And notice how it says teacher only. So any notes that you want to say about how a lesson went, how students did, any information that you'd like to keep track of there, you have it all right there handy and ready for you. And it's just for you to see. So it's a great way to keep track of that file. And then, so you know, well, where can I find this anyway? Well, you can find it in the teacher resources. So when you go back to the teacher resource gallery, And this is where how you label your class makes so much difference. Because when you go here in the resource gallery, you can go over here and you find you have my resources. And here you're going to find everything you have ever created. And so if you don't put months, years, there's some in here that are poster children for what not to do, in the sense that, okay, this has no date or anything on it. That's not very useful, all right? And so in looking at it, you find that all your resources are going to be included here. And you can go down here and find, they're going to be in alphabetical order. And so it was alphabetical order, and it was an F, so it should be up here very close to the top. Syllabus 4, not AP. Sorry if I'm making anybody sick by going so fast. Ah, there we go. You can preview it and say, oh, yes, this is the one that we just did. And if you would like this one, you could go ahead, say next year, you could just click that same little blue circle with a white plus in it, and boom, you could go and then assign that, all right, to a new class, all right? So here, you could either add it to a class that already exists, or like I did before, you could create a new class. Chris, I hope that was what you were interested in, that you mentioned yesterday. Robin, are there any other questions coming in? If not, I'm going to go back and show you some other resources.
Yeah, everyone is loving your presentation. It's so beneficial, and we don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Well, feel free to ask if you have them. And if you don't think of it right this minute, go ahead and log in and look for things. And if there's something you can't find, then feel free to email me, and I'll do my best to help you out. So I want to show you the search feature, all right? So let's see. Robin, have somebody think of something that they would like to see if we have a resource about it. Somebody put something in the chat, and we'll see what we find.
Story of unemployment.
Okay. I forget to put the in front of it, sorry. All right. So when we think about the story of unemployment, there are different ways that you could do this. One is there's a 2-hour version, all right? And that's the whole enchilada. However, if you would prefer to break that up, it can be broken up into the types, all right? Measuring, the consequences portion, and also education versus unemployment. So it can be broken up into these 4 pieces or be done all as one large unit. So this one equals all these 4 parts. So if someone would want to see just one of these, I will go ahead and give you a feel for how the modules work. And since we're looking at it from the teacher view, we can see the pre-test and the post-test. So right here, it tells you additional resources, about how long it's going to take to do it. Incidentally, we are reviewing the times on all of our modules, and some of them are going to be updated to try to make sure that they're accurate. So we're very blessed to have some really sharp interns working with us this summer. And one of their tasks is to help us, double check and make sure all links work, and checking timing on things. So for this one, it has, of course, the welcome, and then I'll show you, this just shows it has a pre-test. To try to figure out what do students already know before they take the module about structural unemployment, to define that. And then there's some scenarios to figure out what kind of unemployment it would be. Once again, another scenario, and then we get into cyclical, the definition, frictional, the definition. And so these are the different ones in the pretest. Then after they've taken the pretest, they get an opportunity to go through and do the introduction where it's explained and defined for them. But one of the things that's nice is besides giving just the explanation, they always get to do something with it, all right? They'll be asked some questions, and then here is an example of there's going to be a little launch button for like a little video thing that you have an introduction with these different videos. I don't think I have set up to have the video play, but that's what this would be, and it's different stories for these different people. So you'll have the stories of 3 different individuals, and then from there, after they hear about these people's stories, then they'll go on and have to decide, okay, which kind of unemployment is it? So it's not just reading text. And so there's one of those for each one of the 3 different types of unemployment. So in looking at whether it's frictional, structural, cyclical, and then pulling it all together and trying to make sure there's some transfer here, that they have figured it out, they get to look at and choose. And so I'm not even going to read this. I'm just going to pick one. All right. And so they're supposed to be drag and drop from the paragraph. And so what happens is if you're dragging and dropping things, if you get it wrong, it'll help you out. All right. So this is a very non-judgmental way that they can go ahead and figure out, okay, did you get it right or not? And so in looking at that, they get to check their answers, and you can say, okay, well, yeah, one was right there, but then you check all of them, figure out if you were correct or not. So it's not just going through and reading, and then you have to take the test. They get chances to practice, and if they don't get it right, then it gets fixed for them. All right, are there any other questions? If not, I'll show more. I think I have a couple of minutes. Okay, I think I have a couple of minutes. So in that last couple of minutes, I want to go back and I'm going to clear. All right. And I'd like to go back here to my classrooms once again. Because if this is new to you, there's a lot of information. And there's a couple of things I think that will make it easier for you, not just looking at, the things at the home page here, but I want to go there. Do take advantage of looking at the tutorials. They really are helpful. And another thing that's helpful is that the frequently asked questions. Because if you have a question, chances are somebody else might have had it before you. Because we've had, hundreds of thousands of students, users, are in the millions. And so we like to think that somebody else might have had that question before, and the answer might be right here at your fingertips. If you look through this and you don't find the answer to your question, it will at least tell you, well, who can I ask? And if you haven't asked, you can always come in here and go to our little mailbox, all right? And someone will read that mailbox to answer it for you. But when we look at one of the things that's very important is to protect the privacy of students, and we do have policies on that, and you can look there to find it out. I think maybe I've used up all my time. So I do want to stop sharing and say thank you for watching, and I'll be happy to answer other questions later. And I'm going to get out so that we can hear from Kevin, because he's got lots of good things to share with you.